This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Andrea Lutz. A lot developing across the state of Montana tonight, including a look at some of the goals and obstacles for the University of Montana as students head back to school this year. We're going to show you that. Plus, we introduce you to some new candidates hoping to become the next governor of Montana. But first, a tourist in hot water with Yellowstone Park rangers may never be caught. The video showing this man going off the boardwalk and way too close to a national treasure. It seems there won't be charges for a man seen walking dangerously close to the Old Faithful geyser after the man evaded officials upon finishing his illegal stroll. So take a look at this video. It was taken by a visitor. The park goer called the act shameful behavior, and officials at Yellowstone National Park say the man disappeared into the crowded parking lot, left the area before a ranger could arrive. No one got a license plate number or a description of his vehicle. So the last visitor who walked off the boardwalk, this was at Grand Prismatic Spring, that person sentenced to 4 days in jail. New information tonight on the deadly crash at the demolition derby in Deer Lodge. This after a car went flying into a crowd, killing an EMT. Tonight, police say 36-year-old Darylyn Day of Anaconda was killed Sunday at that derby. She was an EMT on duty at the time of the incident. She and 6 other people were hit by a car taking part in the event. Police are still investigating why that car lost control. Student success remains a high priority at the University of Montana as leaders look ahead to the future. They also say growth, that's important too. During the State of the University, President SETH BODNAR laid out his goals for the year. He says there's been a 60% decrease in the budget deficit and a 17% increase in student enrollment online. And he says in spite of recent cuts, they're still making hires.
I think the past year has been an exciting transition of the University of Montana from a position of uncertainty to a position of stability. And I'm excited about working together with our team over the coming years to transition from a place of stability to one of growth.
So classes at the University of Montana, they begin next Monday. A hailstorm that ripped through the Billings area a week ago did some massive damage to the schools in Shepherd. And school is set to start tomorrow, but the district is working now to shore up its classrooms. MTN's Zoe Zandora shows us the damage, the progress, and the impact it might have on students.
We're not starting kindergarten and first grade till Friday now, just because my mantra is clean, safe, and dry. And we're getting there today, but those teachers still need time to set up their classrooms.
Shepherd Schools, a centerpiece of a community that weathered a storm of 20 minutes of 70-mile-per-hour winds and baseball-sized hail, causing damage to windows, rooftops, and air conditioning units, costing upwards of $2 million.
We're dealing with the immediate damage to get kids back in the building, but this will be a 3-stage process. Probably take a year to 18 months.
All of the room's windows are boarded up, even double boarded with insulation in between. Carpet is still being pulled up and replaced, but the superintendent of Shepherd Schools, Scott Carter, says they hope to have carpet and windows in by Christmas. Both the Shepherd Elementary and High School have a nearly $12 million bond measure on the ballot for the 2019 September election. Carter says the damage from the storm should not affect that, but the bond is still very much needed.
That bond is huge. We drag food through the snow. We have a library in a 1950s building.
Carter says where the damage done from the storm and the bond set on the ballot intersect really is, do they put the money back into the buildings?
Do I fix up the kindergarten building that's condemned? Or do we wait and see if the bond passes?
The support from the community, Carter says, has been amazing.
This is an amazing community. We are Shepherd. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to help each other all the way through it.
In Shepherd, Zoe Zandora, MTN News.
A lot of people still cleaning up after that storm. Thanks, Zoe. A warning tonight for those living in Warden and Ballantyne. That's because health officials say it is not safe to drink your water, not even boiled water. High levels of nitrate have triggered a warning, and the state believes an unknown surface water source contaminated the water. And the chlorine treatment, well, that's not working either. In this case, boiling won't disinfect the water, so bottled water can now be picked up at the Water District on Main Street in Warden. Well, tonight, fire crews continue to battle the MCCLUSKY fire near Whitehall. It's burning in heavy timber, and now additional resources are being called to help. The fire is now 70 acres tonight. It started by lightning in inaccessible terrain. There are 14 structures, including 2 homes near the fire. No evacuations are in place right now. 27 firefighters and a helicopter are battling that fire. Well, due to the fire activity, fire officials in Yellowstone National Park are increasing their fire danger to high. A new lightning-caused fire is burning 1 mile west of Dunraven Pass. It's smoldering in an area that's burned into the 1988 fires, and park visitors may be able to see smoke in the area. There are no campsites or trail closures due to the fire and no fire restrictions in the park, but campfires are only allowed in an established fire ring in campgrounds and backcountry sites. And fire officials say remember to touch the fire coals just to make sure that your fire is cold out. Good news for hikers in Glacier National Park. Rangers have reopened trails after those reports of bear activities. The Highline, Loop, Swift Current Pass trails on Sunday were closed when rangers got reports of some bear activity. So they've been working in the recent days just to make sure that the bears are out of the area, doing some hazing operations. Now Granite Park Campground remains closed. Hikers in the area always should be carrying their bear spray. Montana's 3 major statewide political races for 2020 already have crowded fields, but as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, those fields may not yet be complete.
In the race for Montana governor next year, we already have at least 6 people running. The top Republicans in this contest are Attorney General Tim Fox, Congressman Greg Gianforte, and State Senator Al Olszewski. On the Democratic side, we have Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney, former state legislator Riley Neal of Livingston, and House Minority Leader Casey Schreiner of Great Falls. But MTN News has learned that another Democrat is giving the race a look. Whitney Williams, a consultant from Missoula and the daughter of former Montana Congressman Pat Williams and former state senator Carol Williams. Whitney Williams confirmed Tuesday that she's considering running for governor, but says she hasn't made a decision. Early this month, an extensive telephone poll asked Montanans a series of questions about Williams and Gianforte, testing messages both for and against each candidate in the governor's race. For example, the poll referred to Williams as a businesswoman and a capitalist and said she believes the best way to help people is by creating job opportunities. It asked those polled if this information would be convincing in persuading voters. It also tested anti-Williams messages, such as whether voters would be troubled by her past work for former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Montana's 2020 U.S. Senate race has 3 Democrats already in the mix as possible challengers to Republican incumbent Steve Daines, outdoor writer Jack Ballard, Helena Mayor Wilmot Collins, and U.S. Navy veteran John Muse. But MTN News has learned that at least 1 and possibly more Democratic candidates are considering whether to enter this race. One of them is a state district judge, but we couldn't reach these candidates directly or confirm their possible interest in the race. One other person is often mentioned when people talk about the U.S. Senate race, Democratic Governor Steve Bullock, who's running for president. But Bullock has made it quite clear, when it comes to the Senate race, he's not interested. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And candidates for 2020 don't start officially filing until next January. Helena city leaders will start enforcing downtown parking fees after a soft rollout of the new parking system hit the streets back in June. New parking kiosks were installed in lots and on streets. And starting this month, drivers can also pay with an app. But in the next 2 weeks, parking officials will start putting courtesy notices on vehicles.
We just thank the public for their patience as we go through this rollout process. It's taken a little longer than anticipated, but that's been a great way for us to realize how the system works. People are getting familiar with the system, and it buys us everybody a little bit more time to get familiar with it.
The new enforcement of the downtown parking meters starts September 3rd. Well, an Idaho man accused of trying to steal cars from a Bozeman dealership is facing now 10 years in prison for what investigators are calling deceptive practices. Bozeman police officers responded to a report of a suspicious woman test driving a vehicle in Bozeman at the Audi dealership just last Friday. Detectives say Josephine Schultz is associated with that man you just saw, Derek Scott. He's charged last year also for a similar crime in the same place. While police searched his home, they learned that Schultz was back at the Bozeman Ford dealership this time, trying to test drive more cars.
This is a financial crime. This is something that we have these suspects who are going to make a purchase of something that they have no funds to cover. So obviously that the dealership would be out the vehicle, the funds, and not knowing where those vehicles would end up.
And detectives say that Josephine Schultz is also facing charges related to that scheme. Butte's Airport is making more room for future expansion, possibly by tearing down its old terminal building. A crew began demolishing the old terminal built at the Burt Mooney Airport. It was built back in the mid-60s. The terminal was vacant for 2 years after that new $10 million terminal was opened right next to it. Demolition crews report that it won't take too much longer to remove the old structure.
Well, as you can see, it's going quick. It'll take a day or two to knock it down, and it'll take a week or two to get it hauled off.
Noisy construction there as well. That demolition was delayed a little bit just to give the airport a little bit more time to remove some of that aviation equipment. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news, the Bozeman School District asking taxpayers to pass a massive $6 million bond. But is the Bozeman City, are they asking for too much? We're going to let you know about that story. It's coming up. But first, we're checking in with Bob on the weather.
Could see a few scattered showers move into south central Montana tonight, but we have a new cold front moving into the west in a couple of days, and wait till you see what happens to the temperatures. We'll tell you all about that coming up after the break.